Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, the 12th of Sha'ban, we've got another 18 more days before Ramadan, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we are blessed with good health, inshallah, and a opportunity to study and continue with our book of Allah, with studies of the teachings of Rasulullah. All right, let's start off with the intention of seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence in the book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Continue on with the Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم ارزقنا يا ربي فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين وفقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل واهدنا إلى سواء السبيل. اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا وعرفنا بالعلم النافع وانفعنا به أنفسنا وأهلنا وأوطاننا وديارنا وجميع المسلمين يا إله العالمين. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. All right, Alhamdulillah, we continue with our legacy. We are still with the saviors of the Islamic spirit. We are with Ibn Taymiyyah or Hafiz Ibn Taymiyyah. 10th Rabiul Awal, 661 until 728 after Hijrah. All right, we saw him being sent to jail and being out of jail, going back to Damascus. So this is, and having several issues with other scholars. Now we saw the last lesson. We saw that he was in jail till his death. All right, let's move on to protest by the scholars. Imprisonment of Ibn Taymiyyah was a source of satisfaction to his enemies, but it saddened the hearts of a large number of scholars and doctors of religion, as well as the majority of the Muslims in Syria and other countries. So they realized, of course, there are certain pockets of people who are not happy with his ways and his influence, and also in his ideas. So they prefer that he be in jail. Of course, there's a lot of others who appreciate what he was, who he was. Numerous appeals were made and petitions referred to the Sultan, urging him to release the Sheikh. The petition submitted to the Sultan from every part of the realm, from the far-flung lands of the Islamic world, showed the extent of popularity and respect Ibn Taymiyyah enjoyed among the people. So here they write letters to the king to ask him, right, to release Ibn Taymiyyah. One such petition sent by the scholars of Baghdad to the Sultan expressed deep concern and the sorrowful gloom overtaking the intellectual circles and the Orthodox Muslims of Eastern countries, particularly Iraq, and the gleeful mirth exhibited by the heretics and non-conformists over Ibn Taymiyyah's internment. So these are the consequences of the imprisonment of Ibn Taymiyyah. First of all, those who appreciate him are in sadness, right? Because they do not gain the great knowledge that he is a treasure house of. And of course, those who hated him, the heretics, those whom he fought against, remember the ones who were in Syria, in the mountain areas of Syria, and those who doesn't agree with his ideas, they are very happy that he was jailed. A number of religious doctors even sent their own legal opinions in support of the stand taken by Ibn Taymiyyah. So basically, he was jailed because of certain of his ideas, which his enemies were able to convince the Sultan at that time that it is very wrong to have him. It's very dangerous to have him out, so he should be in jail. Ibn Taymiyyah's preoccupations in the citadel. We know that he was placed in the citadel, right, house arrest. The internment of the Sheikh, however, provided him after a long time the much needed repose and rest, which he fully utilized in prayers and literary endeavors. So, as we know, people of knowledge, people of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wherever they are always doing something which is of benefit to themselves and to the society, to the community. And as we saw when he was in jail in Alexandria, he changed the conviction of people in the jail, the prisoners, and they all became his disciples. With instead of wasting their time doing useless thing and just whiling their time away, he changed them to people of prayers and zikrs. Alhamdulillah. So now he was so busy that he doesn't have really much time to do his prayers and also to go into his literary works. He completed, along with his brother Zainuddin Abdul Rahman, 80 recitals of the Quran during that short period. So reading the Quran, of course, as mentioned, it's for those who have memorized the Quran, they're very fortunate because they can read the Quran fluently compared to those who doesn't. But those who actually read the Quran every day, they do have some form of fluency, which would help them to recite the Quran, inshallah. One juz, about an hour, maybe slightly less than an hour, right? And they could, because and then they could, inshallah, Ramadan is coming, we can all khatam out, try to finish our Quran as much as possible. If every day, after every salat, we do 10 minutes of 10 minutes of Quran, inshallah, we should be able to finish the Quran, inshallah. There's lots of blessings in continuously reading the Quran. The greater part of Ibn Taymiyyah's writings during the period of detention consisted of exegesis of the Quran, which shows that the time left by recitals of the Holy Quran scripture was spent in pondering over the Quranic verses. So he read the Quran, he looked into the meanings of the Quran, he wrote exegesis, will be tafsirs of the Quran. So he's he uses his time in the best of way. People of Allah, they don't like to waste their time. They don't like to spend time doing useless things. Every single moment should be spent in the best of ways. He also wrote a few monographs explaining certain specific issues which are referred to him by the scholars. He had time to even give opinions on certain issues or explaining them. He was thus enabled to carry on his literary activities undisturbed during the initial period of his last detention, except, of course, the sermons which he used to deliver for the benefit of the people. So that was stopped because he was not allowed out. But he could continue with his literary activities. Further restrictions. The writings of Ibn Taymiyyah were taken out of the gaol and the jail, and their copies sent to scholars in every part of the country. So although he was jailed, right, but the scholars have access to his writings. Among the treatises and monographs written by him during this period, one lengthy dissertation was indicted on pilgrimage, which he wrote in reply to an article of a Malikat Qazi, Abdullah ibn al-Akhnai. Ibn Taymiyyah showed at length how ignorant and unlearned the Qazi was. This kind of things that he does. Where he's concerned, he's just putting things right and he's just showing people the reality of laws and everything. Not that he wanted to humiliate this Qadi. Qadi is a judge. He's a Maliki. Thereupon, Abdullah ibn al-Akhnai, is the one, lodged another complaint in the royal court against Ibn Taymiyyah, which resulted in the issue of another decree ordering that every book, paper, and pen should be taken away from him. So that makes it more difficult for him. They won't even allow him to write anything because of the writing that he did against Qadi Abdullah ibn al-Akhnai. The royal edict confiscated all the books and writing materials possessed by Ibn Taymiyyah on the 9th of Jamad al-Akhir, 728 after Hijrah. On the first of the following Rajab, even the manuscripts and loose sheets of paper were taken away from him and kept in the library of the judiciary. So, stop from writings by charcoal. Ibn Taymiyyah neither protested nor even showed any resentment over this attempt to shackle his pen. After the ink and pen were taken away, he used to write with charcoal on loose sheets of such paper as he could lay his hands on. So he doesn't give up. This is what we call really a very determined man who wants to share whatever he has and to correct things which are wrong. Some of these writings were found later on and preserved for a long time. He seemed to have reconciled himself to his fate and accepted the inevitable without repining, and regarding his tribulations as trials and sufferings without repeating, and regarded his tribulations as trials and sufferings of fighters in the way of Allah. So that is how he sees things. Well, he's already in jail, right? He's not gonna, that's what it is. He's gonna accept his condition. He's not gonna repine over it, cry over it, be unhappy, but he's regarding this tribulation as trials and sufferings of fighters in the way of Allah. It is part of the trials of those who fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Expressing the same feeling in the letter he wrote, thank God that we are now engaged in a fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, or he says, Shukrullah. The battle we are fighting here is not a bit lower in order than our previous warfare against Ghazan, the heretics of the hills and the propagators of pantheistic monism. This is undoubtedly a blessing of Allah on us, although most of the people are not aware of it. So he sees this as a very great challenge in his life, right? Although he had done what he did with the heretics of the hills and also to denounce pantheistic monism. And but he felt that right now, his fight is even stronger. Right? But he considered it as a blessing on us, on Allah, from Allah, although most of the people are not aware of it. So as we know, trials and tribulations are actually blessings on people in the sense that it brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make you realize the reality of situations around you. And also, as with Ibn Taymiyyah, we are aware he is a person who would always forgive those who have wronged him. And that in itself, right, is a great reward from Allah. He will receive a great reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Serene resignation, his serene contentment and calm submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bespeaks of the faith delivered unto the saints. It's a kind of faith, strong faith, submission to Allah, always rida with whatever happens, and it's not worried. But just as you can see, although he's rida, he puts in effort in his own ways, right, to enhance his to share his teachings. And when he was stopped, he moved on to other forms of benefiting the people. As we are aware that saints, their du'as and their zikrs helps the world to be a safe place. The grace and blessings of Allah, wrote Ibn Taymiyyah in another letter, lie in what Allah decides for his bondsman. Right? Surely he is the strong, the dominant, the wise, and the known. So he's strong. He is able to do whatever he wants to do, but he is wise. He has allowed him, Ibn Taymiyyah, to stay in the jail, and he knows every single thing. So there's nothing to worry about. Leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just move on being a good slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man is put to harm only by his own sins, for says Allah, whatever of good befall thee, O man, it is from Allah, and whatever of ill befall thee, it is from yourself. Yes, your sins, right, causes harm on you. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned. The last verse of Surah Baqarah, and we are reminded to recite this every night before we sleep. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah do not burden a person beyond his capacity. Laha ma kasabat, for him what he does. Means if he does good, he get good. وَعَلَيْهَا مَكْتَسَبَتْ, and against him what he does. If he does bad, he will get bad. So things happens in our life. Whenever bad things happen in our life, ponder over it. Ask ourselves, where does it come from? Why does it happen? Like in the case of Ibn Taymiyyah, he didn't do bad, right? But he had done things which caused people to be angry with him, right? Whether it's justified or not, that is not the point. But basically, that is the reality of what he has done. So, and we see scholars, lots of scholars who have been jailed. We have Abu Hanifa being jailed, Imam Shafi'i being jailed. Why? Because they cannot conform to the dictates of society or the dictates of some powerful officials, right? So that's the reality. So he lives to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Is not done wrong. Even in his jail, he is in the best of state. Therefore, it is incumbent on men to be thankful to Allah and praise Him ever and anon. I know so much means anon. I tried to find the word. I didn't get and ever and again, I would have to say that. And seek forgiveness for his sins from the cradle to the grave. So that's what we should be, grateful to Allah, seeking forgiveness to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And all times, wherever we are, always be grateful to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. That means thank you, Allah, and praise be to you on whatever the condition is. And say astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Seek Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala forgiveness. For benediction to Allah brings His grace and blessings. That means for those who praise Allah and thank Allah, Allah will bless him with grace and blessings. Supplication for divine forgiveness averts His wrath and punishment. So you ask Allah to forgive you, astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Allah will prevent His wrath from descending on you and punishment from descending. Whatever Allah ordains for His bondman, it is always the best for him. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ is reported to have said, if prosperity attends a believer, he is thankful to Allah. And if adversity befalls him, he is patient and it is good for him. So in whatever state, it is good for the believer, whether it is in times of good or times of difficulty. But being patient, Allah looks at you, look at him, and will be good and kind to him. Give him lots of reward. But Ibn Taymiyyah was also convinced that he was without reproach. The only fault he owned was that he did not yield obedience to the authorities in the religious matter in which he considered himself to be just and right. So that was his mistake. He understands why he is in jail, right? Of course, he reproached when he does reprimand himself because he did not yield to the authorities. But he says he can't do that because he knows what he is. He believes very strongly in his position. And that is why he's a man of principles. He's not going to be swayed by threats, swayed by gifts or whatever. He believes in what he believes, and he knows that is because of that he was jailed. He acknowledged his intractability, if it could be so named, but far from being sorry for the shortcoming, he considered it a harvest of his conviction in the unity of God. So his unity of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So he doesn't feel sorry, he doesn't regret not abiding by the instructions or the but he doesn't regret being disobedient to the authorities actually, and he's not going to take it back. He's not going to do anything. It's just, to him, it is the harvest of his conviction. It is the final, the fruits of his strong conviction in the unity of God, and he's not going to give it up. In yet another letter written by him from the jail, he says, "Their greatest charge against me is that the orders given by a man were disregarded by me." So that's how he sees it, right? It's not order of God, but it is not the order of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, but the order of a man. And he disregard this order of the man. But if the order given by a human being, whether he be a master or king, contravenes the commandments of his and his prophet, of Allah and his prophet, then that should never be obeyed. It's of Allah here. Contravenes, if it's anything, any law of man is against the law of Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it should never be obeyed. That is his position. Whatever it is, wherever it is, wherever you are, If the law is against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it should never be obeyed. Because there are times where we need to look at the whole situation. Okay, maybe for him, he is in a different maqam, a different station, right? I know of a girl who with a husband, both of them were not very religiously inclined. Then somehow she got hidayah and she decided to be more religious, and she changed her dressing and to the husband's unhappiness, because the husband liked her to dress up, in a sexually manner. And so the husband is not very happy with her. They do love each other. Then, but she does, at this point in time, right, you would say that, oh, she should disobey her husband if the husband insists on her wearing sexy dressing. But she had a different view. She actually obeyed her husband. With her husband, she would dress up sexually, but without the presence, in the absence of her husband, she actually would wear the scarf. And the husband did not stop her from doing that when he's not around. So that means when she goes out, she can cover up. But when she's with him, going out with him, he wants her to look pretty, as he sees it, sexy. All right, anyway, so it goes on for some time. She makes a dua and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one day, the husband asks her, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll see your point of view. I'll meet some scholars and ustads, and I'm going to discuss this. The husband went, and eventually he got convinced. So there are times where you do not disobey completely. It seems also like there are some fatwas also that in countries like America, when a woman converts and her husband is still a non-Muslim, right, she is allowed to continue living with him. Not sure about whether they should be sleeping in the same bed or not, but these are opinions because of this nature of the difficulty of her leaving her family. So this is what scholars would rule on. It's not for us to decide. So here, this is his position. On the contrary, the entire Muslim community is agreed on the view that no obedience is permissible in anything opposed to an express mandate of Allah and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that's the reality. Everyone agree that we cannot obey anyone if it is against the law of Allah and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Some people would come around and say, oh, but we have to go to school and we have to wear we can't cover up and we go to school. So how is it that? And we are obeying the law of the country. So what should we do? In this case, if we have no choice whatsoever, then we seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the moments where we are not covered up. And when we come back, when we are out of school, we can always try our very best to cover up. Ask Allah to forgive us for something which we do not do purposely, and it is something which we have not much of a choice. The last days. Zainuddin Abdul Rahman relates that after completing 80 recitals of the Quran, Ibn Taymiyyah started it again with him. However, when he reached the closing verses of Surah Al-Qamar, lo, the righteous will dwell among gardens and rivers firmly established in the favor of a mighty king. He expressed his desire to continue the recital further with Abdullah ibn Muhib and his brother Abdullah az-Zara'i. Both these brothers were pious and pure of heart, and their recital was very much liked by Ibn Taymiyyah. So we can see that although he was in jail, he was allowed visitors, but of course controlled and according to what he does. But he had not completed this recital of the Quran when the knell summoning him to have heaven was sounded. That means he was called to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before completing the Quran with the two pious brothers. The Shaykh had been indisposed for a few days when the governor of Damascus called upon him. On his request to pardon him for the inconvenience caused on his account, Ibn Taymiyyah replied, I've already forgiven you and all those people who have been hostile to me. So that's the nature of Ibn Taymiyyah. We saw this in many of these instances when he was unjustly treated, but he's always full of forgiveness. He's always forgiving all, right? They knew not that I was in the right. So where he's concerned, they have their position and they think they were in the right, and they don't see him as being in the right. So he forgave them. I bear no malice, nor have I any grievance against the king for putting me in jail at the insistence of the theologians. He did not do it out of his own accord and is free from all responsibility in this regard. So the king had no choice where he concerned, and the king put him to jail because of the situation that the king was in. So he forgave the king. I pardon every man in this affair except those who are enemies of Allah and His Prophet. So unless they are true enemies of Allah and His Prophet, then He wouldn't forgive them. He says because they are enemies, they cannot be forgiven because they are true enemies of Allah and His Prophet. Ibn Taymiyyah was taken ill 22 days before his death. His health gradually dwindled to the journey's end drew near in the night of the 22nd of Zulqa'dah, 728 after Hijrah, and he quit his world at the age of 67 years. Very young age, but he achieved a lot in that short span of life. That's 67 years. Everyone that is thereon will pass away. There remain but the countenance of your Rabb of might and glory. It's the reality of life. Right? Everybody will go. Everybody, we don't know when to go. Some of us might be later tomorrow. Allahu alam bisawab. So that's no matter young or old. Some people, they think they're young, they will have a long time to live. No, we have seen young people dying, for not many real reasons. Sometimes, of course, there are those who met with accidents and things like that. It's a death also, right? The crier of the Citadel Mosque announced the death of Ibn Taymiyyah from the minaret, which was repeated by the guards in the turrets, and soon it spread in the city like wildfire. The gates of the fort were thrown open to allow wave after wave of teeming crowd coming to pay its last homage to the departed teacher. Everybody loves him. He was a very great man. He lives his life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many of them kissed with tears brimming in their eyes, the forehead that frequently remained prostrated before the Idris. So I'm not very sure what it means here. I think there's a mistake here. Of course, he is always in a state of sujud. And of course, such people, their foreheads are very blessed foreheads, and people are kissing him. The buyer was brought to the Umayyad Mosque for funeral service. The thronging crowd, which was getting stronger every moment, was so great that the army had to force its way into it for carrying the buyer with great difficulty. The vast multitude jostling and pushing to get near the buyer, many lost their shoes. Not sure why that was mentioned. At last, the procession ended in Suq al-Hayl, where another funeral service was led by his younger brother, Zainuddin Abdul Rahman. So you can have a few Salat Janazah. And so this is one more, it was done. There's lots of people, they all want to do the Salat Janazah for Ibn Taymiyyah. After the service, Ibn Taymiyyah was laid at rest at Maqbartis Sufia. Maqbartis is Qubur, Qabar. That means the grave of Sufia, by the side of his brother, Sharafuddin Abdullah. It is estimated that a train of 60,000 to 1 million persons, of which at least 15,000 women, joined the funeral procession. In several Islamic countries lying to the south and east of Syria, funeral services were held in its absentia for Ibn Taymiyyah. So they do Salatul Ghaib, right, south of Syria, east of Syria. Everybody were in a state of sadness for the death, for the passing on of Ibn Taymiyyah. A great loss to the Muslim world. But Allah knows best, and Allah is all wise and all knowing. Ibn Rajab, a chronicler who wrote Tabaqatul Hanabila, says that the funeral services were held in several nearer and far off lands like Yemen and China. The funeral service of an expository of the Quran will now be held. Was an announcement made after Friday prayers in a far-off city, according to the travelers returning from China. So, as far as China, south is Yemen, people are making prayers for him. Salatul Ghaib is okay for us. It's allowed. If you know a relative passed away overseas, then we in Singapore should do the Salatul Ghaib also for the one who have passed away. All right, so that's the end of the life of Ibn Taymiyyah. We go on to look at his achievements, his character and achievements, and inshallah we will learn lessons from this great man, right, that lived with great blessings from Allah, with great gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. intellectual brilliance. We know from a few of the anecdotes, stories that we have heard about him, that he was really a very brilliant, very blessed with great brilliance and intelligence and strong memory power. Ibn Taymiyyah occupied a pride of place among his contemporary scholars and doctors of religion, theologians, and legists who had all to acknowledge, without any exception, his superlative merits in every branch of learning. He learned as just like Imam Ghazali, he mastered every single branch of knowledge at that time. This was not due to his fire of genius alone, but also because of his marvelous retentive memory, which was indeed a God-given gift granted to a few beneath the heavens. So he has amazing memory, right? He could remember anything very, very fast. Genius and a great memorizer. By Ibn Taymiyyah's time, the religious sciences had been vastly developed and encyclopedic literature had been accumulated on the scores of these branches. So that's about 600 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and knowledge, lots of religious sciences were there, and he was able to encompass most. No scholar could, without a prodigious memory, claim mastery over the whole of it, much less sit in judgment over the thoughts and findings with the savants in every field of knowledge. So not only was he able to, he is able to master the various sciences, because of his strong memory, he could actually discuss judgments and of others, sit down and discuss with them their ideas and their opinions on certain things, the knowledge, on this various field of knowledge. But a remarkable treasure house of Ibn Taymiyyah's mind enabled him to have at his fingertips the whole of the then extant literature of exegesis, traditions, jurisprudence, dogmatic theology, scholasticism, history, biography, lexicography, and syntax. So because of his memory, right, very strong memory, and everything that he learned, he knows, he is at his fingertips, right? He can teach, he can explain, he can clarify all these various traces, hadiths, right, laws, right, theology would be tawheed, right, history, scholasticism, various works, biography and lexicography, grammar and syntax. He could always utilize his storehouse of knowledge in his thrilling career of intellectual and literary pursuits. So that is a storehouse of knowledge, is himself. He remembers everything. His contemporaries and successors both are agreed that he possessed a wonderful memory, those who are with him and those who come later, nimble mind, very quick grasp, and a radiant flame of intellect. Gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of his classmates, Alamuddin al-Barzali, says that he enshrined in his memory whatever he heard. Rarely anything faded from his mind, and intelligent as he was, he had a wide knowledge. So intelligent, he learned as all whatever that is available. Of course, sometimes even if it's not good, he learned so that he can explain to people why they're not good. Shamsuddin bin al-Zahabi, the famous historian and biographer, has avouched that he has not seen a man more adept than Ibn Taymiyyah, who could rehearse the traditions so correctly with the correct wordings and the narrative chains, recall these at the appropriate time, and cite the correct references. This takes a lot of great memory work, and he was able to narrate hadith with the chains, right, and the correct references. Everyone conversant with the science of traditions knows how difficult it is to learn by heart the entire literature on traditions as hadith. But strange though it may seem, no contemporary scholar of Ibn Taymiyyah, not even his bitterest critics, ever disputed the testimony of al-Zahabi, who said, it can truly be claimed that no tradition would be acceptable if Ibn Taymiyyah pleaded ignorance of it. That means if Ibn Taymiyyah doesn't know of the hadith, then no one will take it. Kamaluddin Ibn al-Zamalkani disagreed with Ibn Taymiyyah on many issues and had figured against him in several polemical disputations. Once he acknowledged that no man of such prodigious memory has been born in the last 400 or 500 years. Right. So, despite the fact he did disagree with Ibn Taymiyyah, he acknowledged that Ibn Taymiyyah has a very, very profound memory. To quote Al-Zahabi again, Ibn Taymiyyah was a flame of intellect and a marvel of sparkling intelligence and a sharp wit. So not only is he full of intellect, fired up with intellect, but he is able to fire up others. And of course, he has a very sharp wit. All right, so that's, we're not ending yet. We are going to the various of his achievements so that we understand. We appreciate also that these are people of great knowledge, and we learn a lot from them. Also, we do understand that when we spend our time in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will make things easy for us, inshallah. All right, we continue with Al-Wafi, a thorough commentary on the 40th Nawawiyah, Sheikh Mustafa bin Al-Bora, Sheikh Muhyiddin Mistu, translated by Mahdi Locke. All right, this was the hadith that we were going through, the 15th hadith. We did halfway. Min khisalil iman. Al-qawlu hasanu wa ri'ayahu haqqad daif wajjar. It is said, the good is that we keep quiet. Right. Wa ri'ayah haqqa, and the rights of guests and neighbors. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. Right? Whoever believes in Allah in the last day, then he will always say good or keep quiet. وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيُكْرِمْ جَارَهُ. Whoever believes in Allah in the last day, then he will honor his neighbor. وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ. And whoever believes in Allah and the last day, then they should honor the guests. Rawahul Bukhari wa Muslim. Alright, some of the qualities of faith. Allah advised those who believe in Allah and the last day to speak well or remain silent, honor our neighbor and guests, let him honor his guests, let him honor his guests, related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Sorry, just that. 3 things. This hadith brings together good manners both in word and deed. Word, that means in speaking, in action, that means action towards neighbors and guests. It guides men to live in harmony in a society. So words, how you say things, how you treat people is the foundation of harmony, is the core of harmony in a society. One with faith speaks well, or one with faith should speak. So the hadith says, if you have faith, then one with faith speaks well or remains silent. So either say good things or just keep quiet. If it's going to be bad, don't say. Speaking without thinking is a source of destruction, while deliberation in speech is success. So we need to think before we say anything and make sure you say the right thing, the good thing. Muslims are aware that whatever said is recorded. Muslims say things that are beneficial. Reducing permissible speech is as it might lead to sin. So we should reduce permissible speech because it might lead to sin. Even if it's permissible, but we just talk, and somehow it doesn't really help us in our conversations. Too much talk hardens the hearts. Speak when there is a need to find truth, enjoin good and forbid evil. So these are points, moments that we should really speak is to find out the truth, right? To learn things and to enjoy good and forbid evil. Treat neighbors well and not harm them. All right, 6. Continuing with the points given. Point number 6. Harming neighbors is a defect in faith and it causes destruction. So you're supposed to treat them good, and on the contrary, if you harm them, then it shows that you don't have much faith and it's a cause of destruction. Harming a neighbor is unlawful in Islam. It is an enormity. Its sin is immense and its punishment from Allah is severe. All right, it's a great sin to harm our neighbors, huge sin, and Allah will punish for that. Whoever is guilty of this is prevented from reaching higher ranks of virtue and perfected faith. So whoever does that, that means harm their neighbors. There's lots of neighbors around. We're living in this environment where we have lots of neighbors everywhere. All our neighbors are in one block is considered our neighbors, not the one beside us. Right? If we do that, then we will be prevented from reaching higher ranks of virtue. That means we cannot improve ourselves, right? And achieve ranks of virtue and perfected faith. Al-Bukhari and Muslim have related from Ibn Mas'ud that Rasulullah was asked, what is the greatest sin? He replied that you make a partner for Allah when He has created you. Means you know Allah is the one who created you and yet you give partners to Him. He is God because He created you. It was then said, then what? He replied that you kill your child for fear that he will eat with you. It was then said, then what? So the second one is that killing your child for fear of poverty. He replied that you seduce your neighbor's wife. That is, you seduce his wife such that she agrees to fornicate with you, then you do so. So that's the third sin. Al-Bukhari has related from Abu Shurai that Rasulullah said, by Allah he does not believe, by Allah he does not believe, by Allah he does not believe. It was asked, who, Ya Rasulullah? The one whose neighbor is not safe from these calamities. The one that is not safe from his evils and harms. Right? So a person is not a believer if he makes life difficult for his neighbors. What is meant by he does not believe is not having the perfect faith that saves one from punishment with Allah Almighty and Majestic is He. So that doesn't mean completely no faith, but faith is not strong enough for him to be safe from the punishment with Allah and Almighty. All right. Ahmad al-Hakim had collected the hadith of Abu Hurairah in which he said, it was said to the Messenger of Allah, Rasulullah SAW, that such and such woman prays at night and fasts in the day, and on her tongue is something that harms her neighbor. So she does a good deed, right? She even do tahajjud and she even fasts, sunnah fast, right? But her tongue harms her neighbors. Just cannot stop talking, and she said things which hurt people. She is Salita. He replied, there is no good in her, she's in the fire. It was then said to him that such and such a woman prays the obligatory prayers, fast Ramadan, and give away pieces of curd for charity. She does not do anything else and she does not harm her neighbors with her tongue. He replied, she is in paradise. All right, so we can see that even not doing tahajjud is no guarantee that you will go to paradise if your mouth is not good. Right? This other person doesn't do tahajjud, only obligatory prayers, only fast in Ramadan, doesn't do sunnah fast. And once in a while give a sadaqah. All right, so she doesn't do anything else, but she gives a little bit of charity and she doesn't harm her neighbors, then Rasulullah says she's in paradise. Salita means that she has a vicious tongue with which she insults others and the like. So we just cannot control the tongue. We have to say something evil, something hurtful on people. Number 7, means of being good to one's neighbor. All right, there is a need to be good to one's neighbor. The means of showing one's neighbor's righteousness are many, and they include one, sharing with him what he needs. So be aware of your neighbors and share whatever you have with him. For it is in the Musnad of Ahmad. Musnad of Ahmad is a collection of hadiths by Ahmad Hanbal. From Umar, he says, a believer does not satisfy himself while his neighbor is hungry. So if a true believer, he will not eat the food while a neighbor is hungry. Al-Hakim was written from him, whoever spends the night satiated while his next door neighbor is hungry and he knows about it has not believed in me. The same is referring to Rasulullah. And whoever spends the night, see, you're full, but neighbor is hungry, he knows about it. So he knows about it and has not. That means he knows that his neighbor has got no food, but he's just not interested to share. All right, so it's very important for us to look out for those our neighbors who are not in good condition. In the Sahih of Muslim, it is on the authority of Abu Dhar. My intimate friend advised me. So intimate friend is Rasulullah SAW. If you are cooking a broth, add more water to it, and look to the people in your neighbor's house and give them some of it. So that is advice from Rasulullah SAW. Cooking porridge, just add a bit more water. It don't have to be so nice and thick. It's a little bit diluted, so if you can more can share. When you're making soup, make it a bit more watery so that more can share. B. So first one is to share with him. Second one, helping him and procuring benefit for him. So second one, we advise to help him and so that he will get lots of benefit, getting benefit for him. Even if that would entail foregoing a right, the foregoing of which would not cause harm. So sometimes you do things and it is your right that he should not be he should be helping you or something, like whatever right that is, and you actually forego your right, and in foregoing that right, it will not cause you any harm. So it's good, it's okay. In the two Sahih's collection, it is on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that Rasulullah said, let none of you prevent his neighbor from sticking a piece of wood in his wall. Right? It seems that sticking a piece of wood in the wall is it's a kind of idiom, a way of doing things to show that some problem with it. Piece of wood. Giving gifts, and especially and on special occasions. Al-Bukhari has written on the authority of Aisha that the Messenger of Allah said, let not a female neighbor think little of giving her female neighbor a sheep's bone with only a little meat on it. So this is gifts, and this is presents, right? It's okay. Rasulullah is encouraging people to give, even if it's just a small, tiny piece, even if it's just a bone, a little bit of meat on it, right? Don't feel shy. Give, right? No matter what it is, you're able to give whatever you're able to give. Just looking back at here, let none of you prevent his neighbor from sticking a piece of wood in his wall. If the neighbor has a need to stick a piece of wood and somehow it disturbs you because you don't like that piece of wood there, you just forgo. It's not his right to actually put things in, which troubles you. But if you forgo it, but it doesn't do any harm to your house. Example, and then let him be if it benefits him. That's what it is. All right, so that's the first one is to share. Second one is to help him anything in any way that would allow him to benefit. Third one is to give gifts, presents. All right, honoring of guests is from faith and an outward manifestation of the excellence of one's Islam. So it's very important to honor guests. We have guests coming. It's already Ramadan. Ramadan, normally most of us do not go visiting, although there are some of us who are invited for to break fast, iftar, right? And then of course in Shawwal, lots of visitors, and some of us actually are not very pleased that we have to stop work or our routine in life is actually disturbed a lot in the month of Shawwal, where we put aside work is to go visiting. Yeah, so it's very important. It is of the teachings of Rasulullah that we honor our guests. Right, not to give so much if you don't have much, but still honor them, invite them in, smile, be good, be happy to show them that you're happy to have them, right? Give them whatever they want. And on the part of the guests, you should not complain if people doesn't give you what you expect. But honor your guests. Rasulullah makes it clear in his hadith that whoever hears to the laws of Allah, of Islam, and follows the path of the best believers must honor any guest that comes to him, show him righteousness and be good to him. So good manners to your guests. Any guest, he says, doing so is evidence of his complete trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the veracity of his reliance on him. So by honoring your guests and giving him food, right, and things like that, shows you have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you have your action, it shows that you leave your affairs to him, you rely on him. He has said, whoever believes in Allah the last day, let him honor his guests. The hadith, is hospitality a right or merely something charitable? So that's the question. Hospitality, are we supposed to, is it the right of the person that we have to be hospitable, or is it just something charitable? It's a choice. And if it's charitable, it's a choice. Hospitality is part of noble manners and the etiquettes of Islam, right? So it is part of having good manners is to be hospitable, and also it is of the manners of Islam, the ahlak of Islam. It is from the manners of the prophets and the righteous. All the prophets and the righteous are hospitable to their guests. So we see that in the story of the Quran. We have story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam and his guests, the angels, whom he slaughtered the goat, right, just to feed the angels. And then you've got lots of hadiths on the Sahabas, right, being kind to their guests. And then we've got Nabi Lot also. He had guests. The angels went to his house, but he was very worried. He honored his guests, and he was very worried that they would be dishonored by his wayward people. Is it kindness and charity from the host, or is it a right of the guest that is obligatory upon it? So there's a question, right? Caring for your guests, is it out of kindness and charity from the host? It means if you feed them, then that's called charity, or is it the right of the guest that he must abide by? The scholars have differed in this. Ahmad and Laith, these are scholars, hold that it is an obligation for a day and a night, due to what Ibn Majah has written, in which he said the guest night is an obligatory right upon every Muslim. So that means if you have a guest, it is his right that he should stay overnight in your house, right? And he has a right to, if he wants to, he has a right to, and we cannot stop him from staying overnight. In the two Sahih collections, it is on the authority of Uqba ibn Amir, who said, we said, Ya Rasulullah, if you send us somewhere and we stop over at the people who do not receive us hospitably, what should we do? So this is a question brought forth to Rasulullah SAW. We went somewhere, you sent us to a place, but people doesn't want to be hospitable to us. What should we do? Should we force it on them? Tell them it is our right that we should be hospitable, they should be hospitable to us? Rasulullah said, if you stop over the people, command that you have what the guests should have and proceed. That means it is your right to take what you have to take. If they do not do so, take from them what the guests right and that they should give. That means they can take whatever is your right. It is not considered as stealing. He also said, let him honor his guests, which is a command, and a command indicates obligation. So this is the opinion of the scholars. And then again, of course, when you go to people's house, you've got to be very careful about how you do things, right? Because, this hadith says it's my right, I can take whatever I want to take because it's my right. And of course, yes, it is. But we look at situations to prevent quarrels, to prevent maybe calling on the police and things like that. So it's a situational thing also. Because it's a right of yours, so you can just overlook your rights. When you overlook your rights, you will be rewarded greatly. If hospitality is an obligation and the host withholds it, does the guest proceed to take his right, or does he present his case to the ruler and he can take his right on his behalf? Is it? So if it's a right, if it's an obligation and the host doesn't want to be hospitable, so what should he do? All right, take it or present it to the ruler. Considering this, there are two narrations from Ahmad. The majority holds that hospitality is recommended and it is part of noble manners. It is not an obligation. This is because Rasulullah said, let him honor. In another tradition, let him treat him well. So this one just says that it's good to do that. So this is the opinion of some scholars, whether it is wajib or not wajib. Neither of which indicate obligation, because honoring and treating others well falls under righteousness and noble manners. All right, so there's our discussions there. So, but it's of course at the end of the day, it's good to obey Rasulullah SAW or to submit to his instructions, that is to honor the guests. The etiquette of hospitality and guests. It is from the etiquette of hospitality and its generosity that one smile and show happiness to the guests. Don't put on a sour face, when the guest comes. Make polite conversations with him. Hasten to bring him whatever food or drink one can, and feed him more than one usually feeds one's family and dependents for a day and night. For the following 2 days, so this is an opinion that you're supposed to entertain our guests for 3 days. The first day, give him special treatment. But second and fourth day, feed him as you feed your family, without conveniencing them or harming them in any way. That means you should not make the presence of the guest, right, difficult for your family and your dependents. Muslim has related his statement, hospitality is for 3 days and the guest is shown preference for the first day and night. Whatever is beyond 3 days is a charity for him. So the guest cannot stay on for more than 3 days. He must understand that when he stays for more than 3 days, whatever is given to him is not his right, that the person is being very charitable towards him. As for the guest, it is from his etiquette that he not harass or annoys and goes, which would include staying more than 3 days or staying when he can sense that the host doesn't have the means to accommodate him properly. So he should be considerate on his part. Muslim has narrated, as related from the hadith of Abu Shuraih, it is not lawful for a Muslim man to stay with his brother until he transgresses against him. It means makes life difficult for him. A Muslim brother, a man shouldn't make life difficult for another brother by overstaying and overeating and things like that. They said, Ya Rasulullah, how does he transgress against him? He replied, he stays with him and he does not have anything with which to accommodate him properly. The situation, he can ask him to leave, especially after 3 days, because what is upon him will have expired. So he makes things difficult. He knows he's poor, and then he makes it difficult for the person. The importance of applying this hadith. Applying what we know from the contents of this hadith is of profound importance because it actualizes unity, brings heart together, and removes rancor and hatred. So that's what it is, right? It is because everyone is someone else's neighbor, and most people are either a guest or a host. Thus, if every neighbor honored his neighbor and every host honored his guests, society would be good, sound, people's affairs would be in order, and love and harmony would prevail. This would especially be the case if everyone adhered to the etiquette of the hadith and does well or remain silent. So that's relationships. All right, let's stop here. Take a break. class. We have our top, inshallah, is about Sha'ban. Nisfu Sha'ban. Sha'ban, we are in Sha'ban.
الذين اتقوا والذين هم محسنون. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وقد قال عز وجل ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. وقال تعالى وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. وقال تعالى ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك. صدق الله العظيم. وقد قال النبي الكريم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم أحبوني لحب الله أحبوني لحب الله أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. وقد قال عليه الصلاة والسلام من صلى علي مرة صلى الله عليه بها 10. صدق الله وصدق رسول الله. ألا إن أحسن الكلام وأبلغ النظام كلام الله الملك العزيز العلام. My dear and respected brothers and sisters, indeed, remember, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first and the last, the most kind, the most gracious, the most merciful, the giving and the forgiving, the majestic, the mighty, the all-powerful, the all-knowing, the all-hearing, the all-seeing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat and salam and blessings and praise and respect and reverence and admiration and love and compassion and empathy be upon his final prophet and messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his pure family, noble companions, and all true believers until the very last day. And today is the very last day of the month of Rajab. Tomorrow, or today, more or less everywhere in the world will be able to see the new moon, the crescent, the hilal of Sha'ban. Sha'ban is also a really special month for us Muslims. According to one tradition, the Prophet ﷺ ascribed this very month to himself. He described it as his own month. And there are several reasons for that. We, generally speaking, believe and feel and declare this time of the year, the past 4 weeks, the coming 4 weeks, and of course, especially the 4 weeks after that, as a truly special season of worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my dear brothers and sisters, is so kind, He's so merciful, so gracious towards His creation, especially us human beings, by giving us special times, special moments in which we can reflect deep and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in prayer and forgiveness and strengthen our connection, our relationship with our Creator, Allah Almighty. And likewise, we also need to contemplate and think of our relationship with his final prophet and messenger, the best of mankind, the chosen one. The gift towards the mankind as mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala onto the mankind. Our true master and our true teacher in that sense, our role model, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Perhaps the month of Sha'ban is the time of the year when we will have the best opportunity to think and ponder over that particular relationship. The next month of Ramadan, we're already thinking about it because it is just around the corner. And we are in a way getting distracted, but inshallah for good reasons. Thinking of the Quran, the month of solidarity. Thinking of Allah and our relationship with Him. We want to increase piety through fasting and other righteous deeds, rites and rituals. But somehow, not maybe always on purpose, we tend to neglect these 4 weeks. Every day of the year is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. Think if the year was much shorter, if there was no month of Sha'ban, it was 11 months. Allah could have made it like that. He didn't. إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شَهْرًا فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. Allah decreed that the year will consist of 12 months. And for each one of them, there is some really important role for us, for our own benefit. So according to the Prophet's advice, we should not be among those people who tend to ignore this time of the year or neglect the particular blessings and goodness of the month of Sha'ban. That is why our scholars have been talking about the excellence, fada'il, excellences of the month of Sha'ban. Just like we declared and spoke about the month of Rajab, that Allah ascribed to Himself as one of the holy and sacred months, the month of Sha'ban has its own privileges, excellences. What are they? We understand that the Prophet ﷺ had special affinity towards this particular time of the year, this month. He ascribed it to himself. And then he went on to fast in this month of Sha'ban more than he would fast in any other time of the year, of course, with the exception of Ramadan, when it's obligatory to fast every single day, unless you are exempt. Why? Because of his love towards his Creator. And one more really significant point that happens to be in this month of the year. It seems that there is some kind of annual display of our deeds or a special kind of lifting of our deeds that takes place in the month of Sha'ban. لعله يعني ليلة النصف من شعبان. Perhaps the Prophet ﷺ meant the 15th night of Sha'ban, ليلة النصف من شعبان, as something very special. We know that there is daily, you can say, lifting of our deeds, even though we understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all seeing and all hearing. He already knows what we are going to do. Of course, He knows each and every deed that we carried out, every single person, at all times. There's no need to present anything before Him because He's aware of every single thing. But yet, in His wisdom, divine wisdom, there is some kind of display and upliftment. So if you and I know that the major kind of annual, yearly display takes place in this month of Sha'ban, maybe we could think to be in the best possible state while that very practice or phenomenon is taking place. And look at the example of the chosen one. He will try to fast as many days as possible of this month of Sha'ban. And he is the one, our teacher, as I said to you, who told us, one of the most beloved, if not the most beloved of all deeds that we can do for Allah's sake is actually to give up on food and drinks and other carnal desires from the dawn until the sunset, which means to fast. Why? Because the sincerity, the quality of ikhlas prevails is the outstanding quality when we perform that particular act. Unlike prayer, we can easily come to masjid every single day, 5 times a day to show off. But you and I will not be fasting every Monday and Thursday, or 3 days a month, or as many days as you can in the month of Sha'ban to show off. You can simply hide from people and eat something. But when you genuinely didn't consume any food or drinks, and even left your carnal desires, and even more important, maybe, from any of that, you ban away the sinful acts. You basically left any kind of nonsense. You are doing that for Allah's sake alone. So the Prophet ﷺ answered when he was asked, why do you fast, O the Messenger of Allah? We see that you fast most of the days of this month. You don't do that at other time of the year. Why would you do so? Why are you fasting so much? And he really gave that kind of answer. He said, I love to be in the state of fasting while my deeds are being presented to my Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Perhaps because of that deed of mine which is sincere for his sake, he will oversee the shortcomings and mistakes that I've been committing in this time and during the past year, and grant me forgiveness and accept my deeds. This is why some of the saints have said, you might not be able to understand this properly, but they said, Subhanallah, we may be doing many good deeds, but if there is no qubul, we've been deprived of its acceptance. What a misery. Ya asafa. Whoa. And that's why they say, you might commit a sin, but that will be the cause of your salvation and gaining closeness and proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you sincerely repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that very sin, and you turn to him with no elements of ostentation, show off. Who will take pride in any sin? But when I do a good deed, give a khutbah speech, I always run the danger of ujub. Am I admired by myself for how I talk? Do I feed into myself, have some kind of sum'a as well? There is a danger. But when I committed a mistake, I won't have such a problem. If anything, I'll be so honest and humble, and with the utmost humility raise my hands and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore get into the court under the shade of mercy, divine mercy and grace. That's how it works. So the Prophet ﷺ always wanted to do those deeds that will make him truly serve and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he deserves to be worshipped. This is one reason. And another reason perhaps why the Prophet ﷺ chose to fast many of the days of this particular month was to give us a kind of lesson. He's a role model for us. We need to follow his footsteps. Isn't that one of the best ways to prepare for what is coming in 4 weeks' time? If you just tried to fast some of these days, alhamdulillah, the day is not too long nowadays. They are getting longer and longer, but fast and get some feeling, sensation, so that you are fully prepared and ready, and your body too. It's not going to be a shock. The month of Ramadan comes, oh, okay, we are running away from the summer season of fasting in the UK, but still the days are, like considerably long, you can say. But if you tried to fast some days of this month of Sha'ban, inshallah ta'ala, you will embrace the fasts of the blessed month of Ramadan with much more ease and eagerness. That's why the Prophet, in my humble opinion, that's why he fasted, because he knows there are many of us who will just follow his footsteps, because he's our role model, uswatun hasana. So
All right. Just to remind us, inshallah, we are having our Sha'ban. Inshallah, this Wednesday is the 15th of Sha'ban. And on the Tuesday night, it's advised by scholars that we recite the Yasin 3 times and make our du'as. Those who are not familiar with the du'as, inshallah, I'll post the du'as and the ways of doing it, inshallah. Yeah, so it's a beautiful month. But the 15 now is only 18 more days to Ramadan. So as mentioned by the Khatib, Rasulullah does fast because it is a month in which our amals are taken. All right, we continue with our surah. We are at Surah Fussilat here. We did an overview of the surah last lesson. Today we'll continue with the surah, the merits of the recitation of Fussilat. According to Fussilat, another name for Fussilat was Hamim Sajdah. So according to a prophetic tradition, hadith, one who recites Hamim Sajdah, Allah Almighty will bestow upon him 10 good deeds for each of its letters. Letters and not verses, and not only verses, not ayahs, but letters, one letter. So there's a lot of reward basically. There's 30 verses, Hamim Sajdah. So each verse, how many letters, how many words, and each word, how many letters. So that's a lot of rewards, inshallah. According to another tradition, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited a chapter every night before going to bed. So he has a habit of reciting this every night. It's narrated from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. This is the great grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one who recites Surah Hamim Sajdah will have light shining on front of him on the day of judgment, and his life in this world will be praiseworthy. So these are benefits of the surah that we're going to learn, inshallah. Start off, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The surah starts off with Hamim, right? We saw that there are 7 surahs with Hamim. And there are very different opinions concerning the Hamim. We look at one of the opinions here. The source of divine revelations. The surah opens with 2 separate letters, Ha and Mim. Remember the Ha comes from the middle of the throat, where the Ain comes from, the Ha also comes from there. Hamim. This is often stated fits in with the Quranic method of repeating references to the fact it wants our hearts to internalize. All right, the Quran repeats references, repeats stories, repeats ideas and concepts because Allah wants us to internalize these parts of the Quran. By nature, the human heart needs such repetition because it tends to forget with the passage of time. And that's why we have our Fatiha reciting every day 17 times at least, right? For those who pray wajibs and those who add on to the sunnahs, more of Fatihas are being recited, and Fatiha is critical for us in our lives. In order to instill a fact in one's conscious, one needs to have it repeated in a variety of ways. Quran addresses the human heart with all the qualities instilled in its nature in accordance with its creator's knowledge. So here we do understand, we do believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator. And being our creator, he knows exactly what's good and what's bad for us. He has blessed us with the Quran, the recital of which enhances our soul. We're coming to the month of Ramadan. This is the month of Sha'ban. The month of Ramadan is a month of the Quran. And in this month, it is an honored month, right? The night in which the Quran is sent down is an honored night. Those who read the Quran, recite the Quran again and again and again, will be honored people also. We ask Allah to bless us with a heart that embraces the Quran and lives by the Quran. So it is a food for our soul, the Quran, and we have neglected our soul for some time. So this is an opportunity for us to bring back life to our soul, or to strengthen it further. Right, our heart will be blessed with knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is as if the two letters with which the surah starts, Hamim, are a name given to the surah or to the Quran. This is most of the surahs are start out as Hamim Sajda. This is Hamim Sajda because it's a sujud part in the Quran. In this verse, in a particular surah. All right, next verse. Tanzilum minar rahmanir rahim. Tanzilun, a revelation from the beneficent Rahman, Ar-Rahim, the merciful. We look at the translation, a revelation of the beneficent, the merciful Allah. But there's no Allah here, but it is an explanation and there's just an emphasis. But the Quran just tells us a revelation from the most gracious, or the most beneficent, and the most merciful. Anzalna means sending down at one time, or tanzil, sending down in time. I mean, time and again, sending down. In combining the two, it would mean the content of the Holy Quran was revealed to Rasulullah SAW at one time, and that al-Qadar, through the forms and words, were revealed to him in time. That means time frame. As we know, the Quran is revealed in the span of 23 years, right, bit by bit. That is why for there are those who maintain that the surahs are not named by Rasulullah SAW. That will be quite difficult because the surahs, the verses of the surahs come down in bits and also not in order. For example, the first 5 surahs that came down, as we are all aware, are the Surah Al-Alaq, right? Iqra, the first 5 surahs. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. So that's it, 5 surahs, 5 verses. And then other verses came from two other surahs. So if these surahs are not named, then it will be quite difficult for us to make references to the surah, right? If you don't name. So he must have said, okay, today I received, alhamdulillah, I have received the surah, a verse from this 15th verse of Surah Muddathir. Oh, sorry, 5th verse of Surah Muddathir, let's say, for example. So if the name of the surah is not known, then it will be quite an impossible feat, right, to get it together. Surah Al-Baqarah, we know it takes about 10 years for the whole of the surah to be revealed. And in some narrations, it is also not revealed in order, which means sometimes the 30th, this is an example, the 50th verse comes in before the 10th verse. So if no reference is made, if the names of the surahs are not given, that will be very difficult for referencing, for Rasulullah to inform the Sahabas where the surahs are. And again, we do realize that the Sahabas, and of course Rasulullah has got amazing memory, that they could actually memorize the Quran, despite the fact that the verses comes in a rather unorderly manner in that sense, right? So we can see the challenges that the Sahabas faced, but they are very, very strong memorizers. They've got very strong memory power because they train their memory to be such. That is why for our young ones, for the first 7 years of their life, we should not focus on reading. That means learning how to read, but learning how to memorize. And the best thing for them to memorize is the Quran. We can make it disciplined in the sense that let them, while they are playing, they just on the Quran, and while they listen, you can be surprised how much of the Quran they can memorize just by doing that the first 7 years of their lives. And then of course we start reading and learning, right, as we go older. All right, so the Quran is revealed at one shot to Loh Mahfuz, that's the night of Qadar, and then from the Loh Mahfuz, from the Loh Mahfuz to Bayt al-Izzah, and then from there it is sent down bit by bit to Rasulullah SAW. Both happens, right? The whole of the Quran was sent down on the night of Qadar, that is in Ramadan, and the first 5 verses was sent out in Ramadan, also on the 17th of Ramadan. Tanzil is a predicate whose subject is omitted. Namely, the Holy Quran is revealed by Allah Almighty, whose mercy and grace are bestowed upon all existent beings. Right? So it's from the Quran, it's a Quran of mercy, out of the great mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We've got Rahman and we've got Rahim. As we know, Rahman is translated as gracious, because Allah is so gracious despite the fact people are so bad, He still cares for them. Rahim is the mercy of Allah on those who, slaves of His, who obeys Him, and He bless them with more mercies. The mere mention of the revelation of the Holy Quran indicates guidance, decisiveness, exaltedness, wisdom, and mercy. So the Quran reminds us of guidance because Allah is the one who guides us, right? It creates decisiveness in us in deciding to follow the guidance. And in following the guidance, we are blessed with exaltedness and wisdom and mercy and lots more from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another opinion here. The first 2 letters are the subject of the first sentence, while the predicate is the next verse. So as mentioned, they are saying that Tanzilun is a predicate. A predicate means it describes something. A revelation. What is this revelation? Right. So another opinion is that Hamim, Tanzilum min Rabbi, Tanzilum min Rahmanir Rahim. That's what it is. Tanzilum min Rahmanir Rahim. So Hamim is the subject. Hamim, as they said, it refers to the Quran. Hamim, a revelation from the beneficent, the ever merciful. Hamim, Tanzilum min Rahmanir Rahim. Choosing to identify the divine attributes of grace and mercy in connection with the revelation of the Quran highlights the quality that is most characteristic of this revelation, namely divine mercy. So we are blessed with divine mercy, we are blessed with this Quran, and we should live life blessed with reading the exact words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in gaining guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in living life dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is of the grace and mercy of the revelation of the Quran. Allah blesses us with it. There is no doubt that the revelation of the Quran is an act of mercy for all mankind. Out of Allah is aware, Allah the all aware, right? He knows that we will be in lots of trouble, considering that the shaitan has decided to destroy us out of envy and out of vengeance, because he's concerned we are the cause of his fall. The creation of us, creation of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, right, exposed his true nature, shaitan's true nature, Iblis's true nature, and that caused him to be condemned to hell. Out of vengeance, and also where he's concerned to prove that Allah is wrong, to honor such a creature, he's going to bring us, he's trying his very best to bring us all to hellfire, together with him, to be condemned. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that he works hard, although Allah has said that his tricks are not really amazing, but still the human being, being weak and easily tempted, can be easily seduced into obedience to him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with his guidance. Those who follow through the guidance, those who read the guidance and learn the guidance and live by the guidance, they will be protected from the snares of the devil, and also from the trappings of their own desires. It is a mercy for those who believe in it and implement it, as also for other creatures, not merely human beings. The jinns are there, reads the Quran also, They find it amazing. We've got the surah in the Quran talking about the jinns and their amazement of the Quran. And of course, the animals around also will be blessed with the recitals of the Quran because there's lots of mercy descending on earth via the recitals of the Quran. The reason that these attributes are cited here is to pinpoint the horrendous nature of the denial of these people who are guilty of not valuing a great mercy. So these two attributes of Allah, Ar-Rahman, is highlighted here. The one who is very gracious, the one who is merciful to all, despite the fact that they do not give him the rights of God. They do not bow down to him. They do not sujood to him. They neglect his rights, or they even dishonored him by taking the shaitan as their master. Yet, he gives them food, he gives them shelter, he gives them lots. Right, there's the Rahman. But Ar-Rahim, he is those who appreciate him, those who turn to him, those who pray to him daily and live life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will gain lots more mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the Rahim, especially for those people who turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlight his Rahman and his Rahim because these people who deny the Quran, does not value the Quran, and they are guilty of that. So instead of embracing faith, they are demanding to see the punishment of God. The Quran is warning them off. So they are being very arrogant here, asking to see the punishment. And Allah continues to engage them with the Quran so that they realize that their position, their state, they are in a very bad state indeed. That is, they are being told that the gracious and merciful Rabb revealed to them a great mercy and blessing, but because of their wretched nature, they are demanding torment instead of mercy from him. He sends mercy, they ask for punishment. That's the reality of the human psyche. Human arrogance. This motive will gradually become evident from the succeeding verses. That means Allah's aim here is to make them realize that what they are asking for is to denounce the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran defines a code of living that brings a good result for all. It has had a profound impact on the life of humanity, its concepts, values, and course of action. It has changed people tremendously. Those who abide by the Quran, those who live by the Quran, they do realize the great and strong effect the Quran has in their lives. You've seen the Sahabas, from people who praise to idols, from people who are arrogant and full of themselves, change. People are always, fighting and angry. They change. The Quran changes them. Its impact is universal and consistent ever since it was revealed. Those who study human history with true objectivity, following its cause in its wider perspective, which includes all facets of human activity, are able to recognize this truth. They're able to see the reality of the greatness of the Quran and the lives of people. And those who reject the Quran, they will be doomed. Their lives are not good in this world, nor are they good in the next world. Many of them have also recorded this in clear terms, the great history of humanity and how the Quran has affected human life. The Holy Quran makes use of every means of guidance, example, commanding the good and forbidding the evil, stories and accounts of ancient peoples as lessons, arguments, allegories, exposition of divine bounties, future of mankind, the manner of resurrection, factors leading to exaltedness and denigration, in details with decisiveness and unambiguity. So those who are not able to embrace the Quran, doesn't live life listening to the Quran, understanding the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they lose out on all these things. That they have denied themselves of this great mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran is very clear, it's very decisive, and there is no ambiguity, there's no uncertainties in the Quran. It's very clear and direct and very profound in itself. The style of the opening statement remains consistent with the previous two surahs, categorically asserting the authenticity of the revelation of the Quran. But the attributes of the revealer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlighted here, are the most gracious and the most merciful, to make people realize the revelation of the Quran is the greatest mercy and kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them. To highlight to the fact that the Quran is from the one that is gracious and the one that is merciful. It is impossible for human beings to design a lifestyle in which they consistently attain balance and justice in all of their affairs. For that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mercifully provided the guidance of Islam so that people can have a well-balanced, just and fair system for a society of peace and excellence in this world and success and triumph in the hereafter. Human beings on his own are not able to bring out a mode of life that would attain balance and justice. Like we see capitalists, right? A way of life that is proposed by humans, right? Still, there's unfairness, there's exploitation, there's corruption, and there's rebellion and things like that. We see communism, right? The people who started off communism, who thought of communism, thought it would be a good idea. And everybody is given the same position, the same status, same salary, and things like that. It didn't work. Right? They have to abandon that ideology. Islam, yes, Islam allows people to become rich. You can become as rich as they want to be rich. There is no restriction to how rich you can be. But you must give zakat. And the zakat is there to improve the state of the society. As we have seen, when the Islamic law was implemented by Caliph Umar Abdul Aziz during his just short, almost 3 years of rule, he managed to change the people and encourage them, not all of them, of course, because those who killed him were not against what he did, because they felt threatened by his establishment of the law of God, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But during his reign, the Muslims community has improved so tremendously that the zakat given at the beginning of his reign was used to implement the justice and the rules and the improvement of the society, that towards the end of his rule, no one is there who needs zakat. No Muslim is there available to be given zakat. So zakat has to be given to the non-Muslims. So that is what it is. We need a balanced life. Some people might think, what balance is there? 5 times a day prayer, that's just too much. But what is too much? You're given 24 hours of life and you pray maybe 10 minutes. Some people, less than that, 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a raka'at, because average maybe 7 minutes, because there are 2 raka'ats and 3 raka'ats and things like that. Let's put at 10 minutes. 10 times 5 is only 50 minutes. Less than an hour, right? 1 out of 24. If we put it at 1 hour of ibadah, 1 out of 24, we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's all that we do. We do the sunats and everything will increase more. But then if you live life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your workplace, right, in doing your in making your work an ibadah, and of course giving sadaqah. Islam encourages sadaqah a lot. The poor, the rich ones who give sadaqah, not zakat. Zakat is wajib. Sadaqah is willingly parting with your money when you're not forced to do. That is sadaqah. Those who give sadaqah, lots of sadaqah in such Sha'ban, lots of sadaqah in Rajab. Rajab is fast, then Ramadan, right? These are people who they understand the reality of life. Well-balanced, just and fair system for society, peace and excellence in this world, success and triumph in the next world. All right. Kitabun fussilat ayatuhu. A book. Kitabun, a book. Not the book, a book. Fussilat, explained its verses. Ayatuhu. So Allah goes on to emphasize the beauty of this book. It's a book a revelation from the most gracious, most merciful. A book, the revelation is a book which is explained its verses. Qur'anan Arabiyan, an Arabic Quran. Qur'anan Arabiyan. لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ, to a people they know. لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. A book of which the verses are made plain. Now, this is all some kind of English, not easy for us to understand when you say made plain. What is so plain about the book? Explain is better. Actually, it's not only explain, fussilat actually means to present it in various modes. An Arabic Quran for the people who know. Allah reminds us it's a book, spelling out the verses clearly and distinctly, according to purpose, people's nature and mentality, generations, communities, psychologies, and needs is a major characteristic of the Quran. So it's not just to explain, but to present the verses clearly and distinctly, to give purpose to the verses, to bring out people's nature and people's mentality, and to appeal to different groups of people with different nature and different mentality, to appeal to groups of generation, different people of different generations and different communities and different psychologies and their needs. This is a major characteristic of the Quran. So Allah highlighted a book, فُصِّلَتْ آيَاتُهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. A Quran, an Arabic Quran. Quran is from the word qara, reading it again and again and again, right? It is in Arabic for people who know. So the Quran is specially given to those who know, who has not knowledge, alama, ilmu, who has knowledge. Additionally, this merciful revelation provides the guidance clearly, explaining its message plainly in the Meccans' own language, clearly, right, in the Meccans' own language, in Arabic. Had it been revealed in some other language, they would have raised the question as to why it did not explain its message in Arabic, as we have gone through, right? The people are just finding faults. If it's not in Arabic, then they will say, how are we to understand? It's not in Arabic. It's not in our language. You know, where does it come from? It's impossible. It's not for us. It's for someone else because it's not in Arabic. But there are those, because it comes in Arabic, they say, oh, there's nothing marvelous about that. He's in Arab. Of course, he gives in the Arabic one. If he comes up with some other language, then we would be fascinated by it. Allah sends the Quran not for people to learn, right? To realize. And so the only way for people to learn is that it has to be in their language. But for us, of course, we are non-Arabic speakers. It still have an impact on us, and we are encouraged to learn the language so that we enjoy, we appreciate, we realize the mercies of the Quran, right? Being in Arabic and in a language that we can learn to understand. I find it quite interesting. Imam Shafi'i said that a Muslim who knows Arabic is like a jinn among mankind. Well, a jinn among mankind. A jinn, we know what jinns are, right? They are invisible. They can see things which we cannot see. Likewise, a Muslim who learns Arabic and reads the Quran, he can see in the Quran what others cannot see. So that's how he says it, right? So it's really, alhamdulillah, we are blessed here learning the Quran, despite the fact that most of us are not very proficient in Arabic, or not even knowing how the Arabic, or not even know how to read the Arabic, but still the learning helps us a lot. And we bring us to realize the greatness of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then it has been revealed to them so that they learn from it and would not have any excuse that they would not provide a guidance and that which was sent to the Jews and Christians. The Quraysh used to envy the Jews and Christians for having a book, and they were called people of the book. But now Allah has blessed them with a great revelation a revelation in their own language that they will learn and they would understand. This is their opportunity to gain the knowledge and become learned rather than remain ummi. Ummi is not learned. The verb ya'lamuna can refer to intention. That is, the Almighty Allah make all this elaborate arrangement for those who intend to know and understand. Now, if you look at the sentence just now in this verse, right, it says that a book explained in it the ayahs, right, in the Arabic Quran for those who know. So if you say that, then I don't know that it is not for me. But here the scholars are telling us that it is for those who intend to know and understand. If you really want to know, if you really want to understand, everybody can learn and gain knowledge, then it will be a book of great mercy for you. As for those who are devoid of any intention to know, all these arrangements are of no avail to them. That means they will not learn. They have no interest to learn. They have no interest to know. They have no interest to find out. And it will not be of any use to them. This style induces and urges the Arabs that they should be eager and enthusiastic about knowing because they were not recipients of any divine scripture. So the words in itself, right, pushes them and encourages them to learn, to know about the book that was, this is a book which is of divine nature. And it was the first time that Almighty out of His mercy revealed to them this book in their own language to teach them. All right. We'll continue, inshallah. Sorry. Right, we just like a little bit of revision on this Sayyidul Istighfar. We always miss this out. Narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas, Rasulullah said, if anyone continually asks pardon, Allah will appoint for him a way out of every distress and a relief from every anxiety and will provide for him from where he did not reckon. So this is the beauty of saying Astaghfirullah al-Azim. Just now we had Ibn Taymiyyah in his advice, praise Allah and ask for istighfar. When you keep asking for forgiveness, Allah will appoint for you a way out of every distress, and Allah will relieve you from every anxiety, and He will provide for you from sources you never ever imagined. Du'as are accepted by those who keep on seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The authority of Shaddad ibn Aus radiallahu anhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the chief of prayers for forgiveness is the Sayyidul Istighfar. That means chief of prayers of forgiveness. We recite it, if possible, 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta khalaqtani wa ana abduka wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'tu a'udzu bika min syarri ma sana'tu abu'u laka bi ni'matika alayya wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfir li innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa anta. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbana anfa'na bima 'allamtana. Rabbi 'allimna alladhi yanfa'una. Rabbi faqihna wa faqih ahlana wa qarabatin lana fi dinina ma'a ahli al-qutri untha wa dhakar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم. warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.